All right, so as we know, the Boston Celtics ended up sweeping the Brooklyn Nets 4-0. At the time of this segment, the Celtics were up 3-0 when Kevin Durant had the worst game of his career, arguably the worst game of his career, in a must-win spot in Game 3 at home. So they did this segment where they talk about Jayson Tatum versus Kevin Durant. Has Jayson Tatum already passed Kevin Durant? It's an interesting segment. Let's get into it.
Is Tatum passing KD as the better player?
You can't go there yet, man, based on this series. Now, here's what I'll say about Jayson Tatum.
Okay.
I said this going in. I think I said it on this show with you, Stephen A. I said going into this series, this is the biggest moment of Jayson Tatum's career.
Agree, and he stepped up to the challenge. Jayson Tatum was great in this series. He was the primary defender on Kevin Durant. If you look at those numbers right there through the first 3 games, he was thoroughly outplaying Kevin Durant. In Game 4, Jayson Tatum showed up and was balling out in the first quarter. He had 12 points in the first quarter. So he came out ready and he wanted to sweep them. He didn't give them any life. He killed them from start to finish in Game 4 and in the entire series. He showed up. We know he had the game winner in Game 1. And he did amazing. But we do have to remember that this is a team game and that Kevin Durant was going in with his soldiers versus Jayson Tatum and his soldiers. So we know Kevin Durant was dealing with the distractions that Kyrie Irving has brought due to COVID and other things. And I love Kyrie Irving as a player. He could play for my team any day, but when you're talking about building a franchise, he's not always the most trustworthy or reliable player. We know his skill set is phenomenal, and you'll deal with the headache. I mean, you're not going to say no to having Kyrie Irving on your team, but some people will just because of all the headache and the other stuff that comes with it. So Kevin Durant has attached himself to Kyrie Irving and attached himself to the Brooklyn Nets, and it wasn't the best situation this year, and they were going against a Boston team that's well connected. Like, the Boston Celtics are connected like a centipede. Everybody's moving along. Everybody's on the same page defensively. Everybody's swinging the ball. There's great ball movement. There's cutters. Everyone knows their role. The coach has done a phenomenal job. I said in another video that Udoka could have easily been the coach of the year for me. He was my candidate for coach of the year. So it was 2 different battles that Jayson Tatum and Kevin Durant were going up against. Kevin Durant definitely had a harder challenge in front of him. The Boston Celtics, much kudos to them. They didn't back down from the Nets. They actually stepped up and took the 2 seed from Milwaukee so that way they could face the Nets. And I thought that was a very shrewd move by the coaching staff because they wanted to implement in the players like, hey, we're not scared of nobody. We don't fear anybody. And if we can beat the Nets in the first round, it's going to build up a confidence where we feel like nobody can stop us. And it's working. I mean, I told you guys before the playoffs started that I got the Celtics going to the finals. I don't know if they win when they get there. We got to see if they play the Suns, if they play Golden State, or what happens. But I like the Celtics to win the East. The Celtics, that squad they're playing beautiful basketball.
Despite some of the deeper playoff runs he'd had coming in, I said because before our eyes, he's turning into a superstar offensive talent, a guy that you could build an entire offense around, and there's no win for the defense in any situation with Jayson Tatum. You couldn't say that before because his handle wasn't tight enough. You could force him to places on the court where he was.
His handle wasn't tight enough, and he wasn't as strong as he is now. If you look at Jayson Tatum's body, he's really filled up. Like, Jayson Tatum has gotten a lot stronger in the short period of time that he's been in the NBA. Like, that dude has gotten a lot bigger. And on top of that, he's became a really great two-way player. I think of Jayson Tatum as like a more offensive-minded version of Kawhi Leonard, where Kawhi Leonard is like naturally a defensive beast, and he had to learn offense and turn himself into an offensive killer. I think of Jayson Tatum as a natural offensive killer who had to learn to become a beast on the defensive end. Now, overall, Kawhi Leonard is still a little better than him, but because Jayson Tatum is in the peak of his athletic career, it's an interesting debate. It's very close just because Tatum can do things that Kawhi might not be able to do anymore athletically, but you still would take Kawhi Leonard because of the championship pedigree.
Wasn't comfortable going. Once he tightened up his handle, created the separation he needs, there's no win now for the defense against Jayson Tatum. And that, to me, sums up what those guys at the big table are like. Kevin Durant clearly has been there. So Tatum now has a seat at that table. But to sit there and say now that this is what Kevin Durant's going to be, like, this isn't a candle that you just blow the flame out one day and it's gone. And now this is what Kevin Durant's reduced to. No, this is a horrible situation in Brooklyn with what that team has gone through this year. There's no question he looks gassed. He is being beat up by the best defense in the NBA. They've targeted him. He doesn't have enough help really to answer that, to take some of the pressure off of him. But this isn't who Kevin Durant is going to be going forward. So listen, all I'm saying is Jayson Tatum is here. He has arrived. We do not need to now, in the same sentence with his ascension, now reduce Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Preach. I think that the Boston Celtics, like he said, they're the best defensive team in the league, and they got away with a lot of physicality. The Boston Celtics were beating up Kevin Durant. They were sending multiple bodies at him, body bumping, tugging at him, hitting his hand, hitting his arm all the time, and they were getting away with it, and it was started getting into his head. And my problem with Kevin Durant, and the reason why I have to take him down a little notch, I've argued that Kevin Durant is arguably the best player in the NBA. I have to say that Giannis definitively is. And I think Giannis loses to the Celtics in the next round, but I think he goes down with a better fight. But the reason why I have to take Kevin Durant down a notch is because in a game 1 or game 2, when he was struggling to shoot the ball, especially in game 2, what I liked and what I admired the most was he kept attacking the basket and he was getting to the free throw line. But late in that game, he missed back-to-back free throws at the line, and you could just tell that mentally he was a little off and that it was starting to get to him. And if you were unsure about that, or if you didn't know, what confirmed it was game 3 when he went out there and only took 11 shots. Like in game 3, in a must-win spot, when your team needs you to rise up and take over or at least go down with a fight, the dude's only taking 11 shots, only 16 points in a home game, in a desperation spot. That's not acceptable. When you talk about all-time great players, I talk about Kobe Bryant and I say, hey, he's about 10th best player for me, maybe 11th, maybe like he's a little bit outside my top 10 or whatever, and people get mad about that. Kobe Bryant, for what it's worth, he might have had those low field goal shooting nights, but Kobe Bryant was going to go down with the fight. Kobe Bryant, if he was off game 1, he was going to be hot game 2. And if he ended up being off game 2, he was going to keep shooting game 3. And if he was off game 3, he would have kept shooting game 4. You guys get my point. Kobe Bryant goes down swinging. Kobe Bryant goes down with a fight. Kobe Bryant goes down attacking the opposition because he just has that mental makeup where he's not going to quit. He's just going to keep charging at you. And Kevin Durant let it get to his head a little bit that the officiating and the physicality Boston was playing with and his teammates not really being able to create for themselves. And he got it in his head that he should just fall back and let the game come to him. You can't let the game come to you when you're down 0-2 in a must-win spot. You just can't let the game come to you. You can't just play in the flow of the game and just make the quote-unquote right play or swing the ball around just, in a must-win spot. This is the same thing that I get mad at LeBron about. Like, these guys in the NBA right now, they don't have that mental toughness or the makeup that a Kobe Bryant had or Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Like, when we talk about some of these greats, these guys in the modern NBA, none of them are really gladiators like that. Maybe it's the social media. I don't know what it is, but none of these guys are true warriors, true gladiators mentally. I'm not talking about their skill set. I'm not talking about physically. These guys are huge, but I'm talking about mentally. Like, none of them are really gladiators or warriors in the sense that they just don't back down. They just keep coming at you and coming at you. Like, that's been my problem with LeBron James is that when it matters most, he's going to make the quote-unquote right play instead of taking his team over the top. And Kevin Durant in that game 3, when he needed to take his team over the top or at least die trying, he fell back and just became passive. Like, they took the spirit out of him. They took the warrior out of him. And you could never take the warrior out of Kobe Bryant. At least in Kobe Bryant's prime, you couldn't. Maybe when he was younger, you could have. But in the prime of Kobe Bryant's career, you were not going to take the spirit out of him. He was going to go down swinging. I mean, the dude scored 60 points in his last game for a reason on 50 shots because he just goes down swinging. Kevin Durant didn't go down swinging, and because of that, he'll probably never pass Kobe Bryant in my all-time list. I mean, he just won't. Kobe Bryant has 5 rings. He has 2 as the definitive best player on the team, as the leader of the team. Kevin Durant still hasn't won a championship as the leader of a team. So I will never be able to put Kevin Durant above Kobe Bryant. And when Chuck says that Kevin Durant was a bus rider and not a bus driver, and when he says, Kevin Durant was never the leader of a team, I agree. Kevin Durant is, when you talk about second-tier players on a team or the second-best player, the complementary piece on a team, Kevin Durant is the best player in the league for that situation. Like, Luka Doncic carries the Mavericks franchise. Steph Curry carries the Warriors franchise. Joel Embiid carries the Sixers franchise. Jokic carries the Nuggets franchise. These are guys who are cornerstones. You build the franchise around them and their play style. And how they play is, you put complementary pieces around them that fit. Kevin Durant's style of play can fit around anybody. He's the perfect plug-in piece because he can score from anywhere on the floor and because he's athletic but also very long. So he's a matchup nightmare, and he's just the perfect plug-in piece. So you can plug him in with Steph, and he's going to be a great running mate for Steph. You can plug him in with Luka, and they'd be great running mates. You could plug him in with Joel Embiid, where Joel's working in the post, but on the perimeter, you could give it to KD to get a bucket. You could do the same thing with Jokic if you took out Porter Jr. and put Kevin Durant. Like, he would make all these teams better. We saw it with him in the Warriors. You look at the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is the team. It's Giannis attacking the basket, Giannis inside. But when they need perimeter buckets in the half court, they go to Chris Middleton, and he pulls on his best Kevin Durant impersonation, you know? Well, if you take Chris Middleton out and put KD there, he would be the perfect complementary piece for Giannis. So that's what I mean when I say Kevin Durant is the perfect second-tier player on the team or complementary player on the team. When Kevin Durant is orchestrating the show, when he's running the show, he's not the best fit because when he runs the show, he falls back from a mental aspect and he falls back from a vocal aspect and he allows the second-tier guy to run the show. Kevin Durant is supposed to tell Kyrie Irving and Russell Westbrook, hey, fall back. But instead he tries to go to management or instead he tries to work around and like see if they can bring somebody else. The biggest thing that the Brooklyn Nets need is a veteran presence. Like they need somebody that's won championships and is experienced and who, you know, can actually talk, and Kevin Durant and Kyrie both have to listen. They might not be as skilled as Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but someone who they have to listen to. Because they don't listen to Steve Nash. They don't respect Steve Nash. Steve Nash isn't a champion. Kyrie Irving is a more talented overall player than Steve Nash, and Kevin Durant has had a better career than Steve Nash. So they don't look at Steve Nash as anything special. They don't think Steve Nash can tell them anything about winning because they both have rings. Kevin Durant has multiple rings, and Steve Nash has never won a ring. So they don't look at Steve Nash as somebody who they should respect. They need to get somebody in there as a coach. Like Udoka would have been the perfect person for them because Udoka has won in the NBA. Udoka has been around. Udoka is a big guy. You know, he's an African American, so he's someone who they'll respect a little more than Steve Nash, just on a personal level where they feel like they can relate with him more than they can with Steve Nash. I don't think Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are really chopping it up with Steve Nash like that from a homie perspective. They definitely need a change in the coaching staff. They need someone who can humble them a little bit, especially humble Kyrie Irving a little bit. And on top of that, they need somebody on the team who has that cachet also. Like, I'm trying to think of who, but like one of the Morris twins, or especially the one who's on the Clippers, like someone who's not going to back down to them, but going to tell them, hey, you know, we got to step it up, or hey, get your shit together. But he can also produce on the court, or somebody like a Kyle Lowry. Like I know I'm naming guys who they probably can't get, but like a Kyle Lowry who, you know, on the court he's going to be productive, but more than that, what he brings. You know, and Iguodala, Patrick Beverly, guys like that who aren't going to back down to KD and Kyrie Irving. They need to fill the roster up with guys like that. This Gordon Dragic, Patty Mills, like guys who are washed, guys who are out of their prime of their careers, like Bruce Brown and Claxton, who are just going to listen to whatever KD and Kyrie say. Like they need some more professionals, some more veteran professional guys who have been around in the NBA. They need more of those guys, and you know, of course, they're going to get Ben Simmons back, but they need more of those guys, and that would go a long way into making them contenders. And, of course, they need continuity. They need to actually play a full season together and actually be in the flow of things. And, you know, Kyrie needs to figure out whatever he needs to figure out so that way they can get going.
Durant is still, to me, the guy, okay? But he's got to go back next year, and he's going to have to prove that again. But Jayson Tatum is worthy of being in that sentence now. And prior to this season, and even prior really to this series, I don't know that you could have said that. Now it's a legitimate debate, and he deserves a seat with the great superstars in this game. There's no question about that. But let's not get ahead of ourselves on what Kevin Durant is going to be going forward based on what we're watching right now in this series. That is not fair to Kevin Durant.
I completely agree with you. Kevin Durant is a superstar. Kevin Durant came into this series, as far as I'm concerned, as the best player on the planet.
Not true. Coming into the playoffs, Giannis was the best player in the NBA.
Can't say that about him now, but it's not because of Jayson Tatum. It's because of so many other things that ultimately will come to stain Kevin Durant to some degree. Now you got to look at Giannis. You got to look at Embiid. You got to look at a couple of other players and say, excuse me, you even have to look at LeBron, who's just completed his 19th season and made his own mistakes in thinking that, you know what, he could pair with Russell Westbrook. And that's something that's going to stain him as well, which means that you don't need to have some of these players making some of these decisions, because clearly they allow emotions to get in the way of their basketball brilliance in terms of their judgment. That's really what's going on with Kevin Durant right now. And Kevin Durant is going to suffer the consequences in this respect. We will not look at him the same, because as this story continues to unfold, if they lose tonight, and I believe they will, this is not going to be the end. This is going to be the beginning of many storylines that are going to percolate. I believe this is going to cost Steve Nash his job.
As it should. Steve Nash is the worst coach in the NBA. If it's not Steve Nash, it's Doc Rivers. And the reason why I say they're the worst coaches is because as a coach, your job is to make adjustments. Like, that's the number one thing a coach is supposed to do. He's supposed to have his guys prepared. He's supposed to have his guys ready. Make sure you guys are ready for battle. Have things set up, preparation, game plan, of course, all that. But when it matters most, a coach's number one thing is supposed to be adjustments. And Steve Nash and Doc Rivers, they don't do any adjustments. It's just on the players to figure it out and get hot or make it happen or not. Like, even in the Sixers-Raptors series, which I'll be covering in another video, the Sixers won Game 6 against the Raptors, but it was because they were tied at halftime. It was a high-scoring game where the Raptors were just out of gas and couldn't defend anymore. And to start the half, Tyrese Maxey just comes out balling. And, that's not Doc Rivers doing anything. That's just the Sixers figuring it out. These coaches that don't make any adjustments, I have no respect for them. You're a coach and you're not making any adjustments whatsoever. You're basically having courtside seats, eating popcorn. You got the best seats in the house.
And I don't believe it's his fault, even though he had no experience, and I thought they needed a coach with experience, and you should be as an assistant coach at least before you become a head coach. I'm not going to blame Steve Nash for taking the job. I would have took the damn job. You would have took the damn job. I mean, come on now. We can't blame him for that. Kyrie wanted that. We don't need a coach. We really don't need a coach. Hey, what did you just finish telling me? Sometimes it's one of us coaching. I mean, he doesn't realize how that comes back to bite Steve Nash. But it
comes back to bite Steve Nash, but it also comes back to bite Kyrie Irving. I understand what he was saying. He's saying, hey, me and Kevin Durant are champions. We don't necessarily need Steve Nash or need a coach because we understand the assignment. And at the time that he said that quote, they had James Harden, and I think things were going well with James Harden. So, I understand it, but at the end of the day, dude, hopefully that was a humbling experience for Kyrie Irving. I know he feels like the media and everybody's attacking him, so he's on the defensive end. But I hope in regards to that coach statement that he humbles himself and they get somebody good in there.
It also comes back to bite Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant, a good brother whose heart's in the right place, loves his brothers and does not betray them. And as a result, he stood by Kyrie, and Kyrie sold him out. Somebody's got to say it, damn it. He sold him out. You can talk all of this stuff that you want to. Kyrie puts Kyrie first. Kyrie is about Kyrie. And as a result, Kevin Durant, who should be a leader, followed this dude's lead. And it's taken him right down just like the Titanic. And now we're not talking about...
Yeah, I understand what Stephen A. is getting at. Kyrie's personal decisions have affected the team's winning. And, it's affected the greater good of the team overall. You can't deny that. But Kevin Durant, at some point in your life, when you're in your 30s, you have to step up and you have to say, hey, I got to take some accountability for the things in my life. I have to step up. I have to call the shots. And, I have to be in the front seat. I have to be, like Charles Barkley said, I have to be the bus driver. I can't just be a rider and then complain when people are driving the bus in a way that I don't like or in a way that doesn't work for me. Like, it was all cute and sweet when Russell Westbrook was driving the bus in OKC and Kevin Durant would go behind his back to management and say, like, hey, you guys need to slow this shit down, or I can't control him, or he's doing whatever. Like, he's taking more shots than me in games and different things like that. But, hey, dude, you made the decision, you put the ball in your own court and you went to Golden State and you made it happen over there, and eventually you wanted out of there. And I understand the decision to get out of Golden State as well. But when you came to Brooklyn, that was your opportunity to step up and show people that you can do it. And you still got time. You're still in the prime of your career. You're still balling out. You're still a top 5 player in the NBA, no doubt about it. And you can still come back next year and shut everybody up, but you got to go out there and actually do it, and you got to do it when it matters, and you got to do it in the fashion of a leader. You got to do it in the fashion of a leader. And do I think he'll do it? I think he's going to be productive and have the production that Kevin Durant always has, but I don't think that Kevin Durant can lead a franchise and just be the guy who's in the forefront without having big-time players who are on the team, big-time personalities that carry that weight of running the ship, like a Steph Curry system, or like I said, a Luka Doncic system, or Joel Embiid system, Jokic system, where KD can kind of run behind that and ball out and arguably be the best player on the team, but ball out behind that. I think he really needs that.
KD, the two-time champion. We're not talking about KD, the two-time NBA Finals MVP. We're going to be talking about KD, the dude who left Steph Curry to join Kyrie Irving. That's what we're going to talk about. And we know that Kyrie is on the same level as most of these guys because he's a superstar talent. But he doesn't have their discipline. He's not as accountable as my man Mike Wilbon would say, as those guys. Jayson Tatum, on the other hand, is a guy that should have been a Philadelphia 76er. They should have drafted him instead of Markelle Fultz. He should have been a Los Angeles Laker because Magic Johnson should have drafted him instead of Lonzo Ball. But he ended up with Boston Celtics. He's 24. He's been in the 2 conference finals already. And this dude is coming. I don't believe that he's Kevin Durant. I believe he's in a better system. He is being exceptionally well coached. We keep forgetting it wasn't like Brad Stevens couldn't coach. Now, he did take him to 2 conference finals. Brad Stevens does know basketball.
Wait. Hold that thought. Tonight. So you think the sweep happens tonight?
Yes.
What do you expect from KD?
I don't know why she had to cut him off. Stephen A was preaching. Stephen A was making great points. I don't know why Molly had to cut him off, but anyway, like Stephen A was saying, Jayson Tatum is in a great situation. He's playing for a great franchise. He's playing for a franchise that sets him up for success, and he's been getting better and better every single year. He's had learning curves with Jaylen Brown and figuring it all out. There was a time where Kyrie Irving was there and they were figuring it all out, but now Jayson Tatum, like I said, he's gotten stronger. Like Tim Legler stated, he's gotten a tighter handle on the ball. And he's always been a guy who's been able to make shots. He can make tough shots. He can get to his spots on the court. And, the fact that he's embracing the defensive end has really made him a really great two-way player. And he's a top 10 player in the NBA. No doubt about it. Jayson Tatum is a top 10 player in the NBA. I just can't put him over Kevin Durant yet. But if he wins a championship this year and he's the best player on the team, and I have them going to the finals, I do. Kevin Durant as the best player on the team. OKC got to the finals and they lost to the Miami Heat. So I got Jayson Tatum going to the finals. If he wins, he's going to make a compelling argument because he can say, I won a championship as the best player and undisputed leader, while Kevin Durant, when he was the best player and won championships, he wasn't the undisputed leader. So he'll be able to make a case for himself. It'll be a hell of an argument. But I think the Celtics get to the finals. I don't know if they win it or not, but they get to the finals. And that'll just keep elevating him in the hierarchy of top players in the league. But Jayson Tatum right now, top 10 player in the league. Kevin Durant right now, top 5 player in the league. I'm not going to give an order in this video just because I want to see how these playoffs play out, and then we can evaluate it at the end. I don't want to just give out hot takes after the first round. But we'll evaluate at the end of the playoffs. Before next season starts, we'll come out with a full list where we detail who the best players are in the league and why. So, thanks for watching. Peace.